And I only seen it once, and I didn't love Shining the first time I saw it. I have since seen Shining 25 times, one of my favorite pictures. Kubrick films tend to grow on you. You have to see them more than once, but...
Blade Runner is one of my favorite films of all time, and Twin Peaks is one of my all-time favorite TV shows. Both have such a special place in my heart when it comes to my favorite pieces of art and have impacted me both emotionally and in my own work. Now you may be wondering, what do these two things have in common? Why am I attempting to compare a stylized dystopian cyberpunk science fiction film about an ex-Blade Runner being called back to hunt down a group of replicants that ultimately explores the depth of what it means to be human, to one of the only avant-garde pieces of television about a small town in Washington state and the murder of a high school girl? The answer is, of course, I'm not attempting to compare them, at least not in any analytical sense. What I'm here to tell you is that when I first watched both of these, I fucking hated them.
What the hell?
I see it all the time, people who originally dislike something they watched and then eventually upon watching it again being enlightened to what that piece of art is offering them. And I must admit, in the case of Blade Runner, I was being slightly hyperbolic when I said that I hated it. I didn't, but it was just something that seemed to bore me. When I first watched it 3 years ago, I had just started to get into film analytically, and I stupidly approached everything I watched with such an objective mindset that I honestly cringe looking back at that period. And because I couldn't make any objective sense out of what I was seeing back then, I couldn't attempt to understand the feat of Ridley Scott's filmmaking and style, and I just didn't enjoy it. Fast forward a year later, I saw in cinemas a back-to-back screening of that and Blade Runner 2049, which was a fantastic experience, but still, I wasn't completely sold on that first film, but I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than my original viewing. Now, a couple weeks ago, I was sleeping on the sofa one night in my living room, and I got woken up at 5 AM by a storm. The rain and the wind were hitting the window, and I couldn't quite get back to sleep, so instead I opted to make a coffee and randomly stick on Blade Runner. And 2 hours later, I was a changed man.
All those moments will be lost in time. Like tears in rain.
Sometimes I think that the mood and environment you watch something in plays such an important part in how you engage with that art. It's why I believe that cinemas are still so important. Yeah, alright, the rewatch that made me fall in love with Blade Runner didn't take place in a cinema, but I have such fond memories of going to that double screening. The cinema is and always will be the optimal viewing experience for a film, and they're so crucial in our world. You get to watch the film after the excitement of arriving to the cinema, getting your snacks ready, and you're in a dark room with huge screens and great sound. For as great as home viewings are and can be, and I do love watching a film at home on my sofa, on my big TV, the cinema is the prime environment for film.
Diane, 11:30 a.m., February 24th. Entering the town of Twin Peaks. It's 5 miles south of the Canadian border, 12 miles west of the state line.
When it comes to Twin Peaks, unfortunately, my old self actually did hate it. So much so, in a group chat with a load of Twin Peaks fans, I dubbed it Twin Reeks, which is one of my biggest regrets in life. But anyway, I couldn't tell you what it was that I didn't like about it when I first tried to watch it. 2 years ago, I called it dated. Now I call it timeless and one of my favorite pieces of art ever. But then that's Lynch. He is well regarded as one of the most divisive artists ever. And there certainly is an element of you either get with the vibe or you get off the train in Twin Peaks. When I attempted to get back into it again at the start of this year, I randomly got with the vibe, and that was it. I loved it. The bliss autumn environment that cages a deep nightmarish underbelly which is full of this Lynchian bizarreness. It's brilliant. Obviously, in some cases, the complete opposite can happen. You can at one point love a piece of art and then in future come back for a revisit and find out the enjoyment you once got out of it is no longer there. And that always sucks. I mean, personally, I've always found that to be very rare for me and for most people, but you know, it does happen. Now, why does this happen? Obviously, the answer is, I don't know. That's the thing with this art thing. It works in mysterious ways, and that's a big part of the fun in it. You never know when an artist or a work of art is just going to hit you in the face and hit every emotional beat that you need in your life at a moment in time. When I watched The Tree of Life for the first time, I didn't like it at all. I wrote out a long review with all my critiques of the film, and a year later I gave it another shot, and I thought it was pretty great. I still agree with many of my original thoughts on the film, but upon revisiting it, I found myself able to immerse myself within Malick's visual poetry a lot more, and I think that's for two reasons. One, I had just watched what is my favourite Malick film, Knight of Cups, and it enlightened me to his visual style, and two, I just needed that rewatch at that point in my life. It's like it came to me and clicked with me in a moment where I just needed Malick's philosophies and look at life in that film. Look, at the end of the day, all I'm trying to tell you is this: if there's something out there you didn't enjoy, give it another go. Sometimes things really are just not meant to be, and you genuinely just won't like it, which is exactly what happened to me when I attempted to rewatch Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood the other day. It's one of those to me where I watched it when it first came out and everybody I know raves about it and loves it, but I just never did, and I thought, well, it's been a few years, and I attempted to rewatch it recently hoping that I would get the film, but unfortunately I still am not a very big fan of it. But sometimes, like in the case of Blade Runner and Twin Peaks for me, a piece of art is just yet to connect with you, and I promise if you watch it again and it does connect with you, your relationship with that piece of art will be special. So yeah, I guess all I'm trying to say is give it another go.